Welcome to episode number 243, where returning guest Dr. Paul Dugliss talks about the practice of radical acceptance and how expanding our awareness with meditation will help us develop an intuition to our body's needs. He also talks about the mental and emotional connections of the chakra system. So please stay tuned. Welcome to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. I'm your host, Colette, and I hope to educate and empower you to take charge of your health and well-being, preventing disease in the body and mind so that you can thrive in life. I will be sharing the holistic teachings of Ayurveda, which is the ancient healing tradition from India. Now, if you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend listening to the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. And if you like the content, please be sure to subscribe or follow the podcast so the new episodes will automatically download for you. Also, you may want to check out my private Elements community, which is away from social media. It's a safe space for like-minded people to come together, to connect, to share, to support each other, and to continue the conversation from the podcast episodes. Check out the link in the show notes or visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com, and just click on the community tab. And I hope to connect with you there. Thanks for listening. And now here's a new episode. Hello and welcome back to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. Today, I'm very happy to welcome back Dr. Paul Dugliss, who is a pioneer in the American medical system, being one of the first physicians to integrate the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda into modern healthcare. He has written 7 books on Ayurveda and is a founding member of the National Council on Ayurvedic Education. He has traveled the world as a speaker and is regularly consulted as an expert on a variety of health and consciousness-related projects. He has devoted his life to bringing Ayurveda to the mainstream with the New World Ayurveda School and continues to bring his students an ever-evolving understanding of what living as a conscious whole person rooted in heart means. Dr. Dugliss, welcome back to the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much, Colette. It's great to be back. I'm excited to talk about today's topic.
Yes. So we had 2 previous episodes together. Number 219, we talked about Ayurveda, the chakra system, and human needs. And then episode number 227, we talked about the 10 facets of the heart. And when we were discussing a topic for today, you were saying that you'd like to discuss healing the chakra system and radical acceptance. So it's really bringing these together, these 2 episodes that we talked about before, bringing them together in the context of healing.
Indeed. And I think to give that broadest concept, we want to focus on healing and really getting a deeper understanding of what healing is. And then we'll be able to see the connection to the chakra system and from there come to understand why radical acceptance, at why this facet of the heart can be crucial in promoting healing and getting the balance that we need in the chakra system.
Okay, great. So tell me, Dr. Dugliss, where would you like to start on this? Would you like to start with what is healing?
Yes. I think it's really valuable to think about, okay, this concept of healing, we think of health in terms of things like nutrition, particularly with the approach from Ayurveda using food and using lifestyle and routine in order to promote health. But this whole aspect of healing, we really will be well served to take a deeper dive in for a moment to understand what is taking place. And this word health comes from the old English hail or the old German Heiland, and that means to make whole again. So healing is a process of becoming whole again. And if that is the case, then we need to really ask, okay, well, what has become fragmented? How have we become disconnected? And what is it that we're disconnected from? And this is where healing goes way beyond something physical. This is where we need to understand that there is an organizing intelligence that is directing the body. One of the things that I often point out in my first lectures is that the body is really transient. In other words, the cells that are lining your stomach today were not there a week ago.
Right.
The blood cells that you have circulating in your body are only there for about 90 days. And so so when we look at, when we do even molecular studies on the body and look at what's getting replaced, within a year's time, about 99% of everything that you saw in the mirror today when you looked at yourself was simply not there. It's been cleverly replaced. If you think you are the body, you've been replaced over the last year by a clever double. And so there's an organizing intelligence that is working in the background that keeps us as a whole. It keeps, an eye cell being an eye cell and not a liver cell. And that means that when we're looking at healing, we're looking at actually reconnecting to that intelligence and that source of our life energy and that source of organizing power that is constantly at work in the background on the physical body. And the fragmentation that sets us up for imbalance and that sets us up for dis-ease really is that disconnection from source, disconnection from that unified field of consciousness that underlies all of creation and that contains within it the intelligence that organizes the body. So just to take another step back, when we look at the philosophy of Ayurveda, when we look at the sages of the past, and when we look at the modern physicists, they're all telling us the same thing. They're saying all of creation, and particularly our life, arises out of this one underlying field of energy and intelligence. And it is when we become fragmented from, disconnected from that underlying field of energy and intelligence that we create the setup for imbalance that then over time turns into disease. And, we can see this on a physical level with when we look at something like cancer. Cancer, these are normal cells that have lost connection with the organizing power of the body. And so they just grow uncontrollably instead of growing in a controlled way. And so it is important for us to understand that this disconnection from this underlying field from source is the setup that then creates the whole myriad of diseases that we are prone to. Mm-hmm. And
Go ahead.
Question.
No more question, just a kind of reflection that it is very empowering to hear that our body is not set in one direction. We have this renewal that happens, this renewal of cells. And therefore, if we bring the body into the right environment, that underlying source intelligence will do the work to bring the body back into balance.
Precisely. And that is why these really subtle things have so much power. Right. Things like restorative sleep, things like meditation, things like love have this huge impact on our health. When we look at longevity studies, one of the things that they notice in individuals who live 100 or longer is that they sleep well. So there is an element of reconnection it takes place in deep sleep that most of us are not aware of in the West. And we can attend to that connection with Source more directly and more efficiently in meditation. And so it is the reason that with meditation, we see dramatic reductions in healthcare utilization. And it is, again, this natural setup. When we become more aligned, then the body can naturally take care of itself.
Yeah, because the body wants to heal, has the intelligence, as you said, but it needs the right environment, the right resources in order to be at a place where it can operate optimally.
Yes, and the way that our modern lifestyle is organized, we don't give the body all that much chance typically.
Exactly. Yes. And this is the issue. We have a lot of lifestyle related diseases. We are losing our connection with nature, and with that loss of connection comes a myriad of problems, and one of the biggest problems being stress.
Yes, stress is a mess. It is the precursor to so many different types of diseases, and it really is something that needs to be addressed directly. However, there's even a bigger question, and that is, well, what is it that sets us up for stress?
Right.
What's going on that drives us to do things against what's natural for the body? You know, I sometimes joke that cows don't eat pizza at midnight. That's not the natural thing to be doing. Right. But somehow we humans have this drive to stay awake long past when the body signals us it's time to sleep, and often we get into that needing the midnight snack and end up taking pizza. So there is that element, but I think we want to even go deeper into an understanding, and that's of stress and of health and of this disconnection. And that's where, when we begin to look at the chakra system and at the more mental, emotional connections and with the chakra system, that we begin to have a deeper understanding of how the facets of the heart, and particularly this facet of the heart that gives rise to radical acceptance, can play a huge role in decreasing stress and decreasing suffering. And so to reiterate a little bit of what we talked about before with the chakra system, is that it's not just not just energy that is held within these energy centers. That these energy centers reflect both on a physical level, the endocrine system, but also they reflect on the emotional, mental level, basic human needs. And so when we look at the lower chakras in particular, we're looking at these really foundational needs. First chakra, the need for security, for certainty, for that stability that we often find through the safety of being part of a family. Certainly, as a baby, we need that support of family, or at least of parents, and it is in that stability that we can come to feel safe in a world that is difficult for a child, impossible for a baby to manage. We can't survive without it. And so a lot of the mental, emotional programming around security and safety starts to take place in those very young years. And when there's imbalance there, or when we overlearn, sometimes we develop a strategy to feel safe, and we overlearn, or maybe our strategy was to try to draw closer and be, to our parents. And so our strategy as we get into adulthood, in particularly into close relationships, is that we tend to really try to cling on to those. And so these patternings in trying to get these basic needs met become something that then it drives behavior in adulthood.
Yeah.
So another example with the third chakra is about our ability to be autonomous and to have a sense of our worth and value, and a sense of our personal power, that sense of being able to affect things in the world and to survive and to be independent. And too often what happens is that we can get into overlearning, trying to do things perfectly to feel okay. I did it well, I have to do it perfect to feel okay about myself.
Right.
And we get into perfectionism and these other patterns that then as adults drive us to be doing things that override what's natural for the body. So you could see this in somebody who's, a workaholic. They will drive themselves to exhaustion. And so much of it is in the patterning that exists in the chakra system, that exists in this third chakra. And the old ways that come from childhood, or if, the concept of past lives resonates with you, it can also be that setup that we came into this family and learned these patterns as part of that past life lesson that we wanted to be working on in this life.
And so these patterns in the chakra system, as you said, they're learned in childhood in order to get our needs met in childhood. And then they become our way of being in the world. And so they're literally like these patterns are in our matrix. They're very deep in our way of being. So how do we come to unwind those ways of being, those patterns?
So this is the beauty of Ayurveda, is that there's so many different modalities that we can use to work with unwinding. And what it really is coming to wholeness again, coming to that connection to source again. So one of the primary modalities that I emphasize in my practice is meditation, and particularly a style of meditation that allows us to go beyond the mind, beyond the emotions, beyond sensation, beyond even awareness of the body, and connect to source, connect to consciousness itself. And so an automatic self-transcending style of meditation is what I'm referring to, that will allow us to connect directly to consciousness. It is a way that allows the patterning a break, gives us a break from the patterning,
right?
And it pulls in that greater awareness. It allows us to expand our awareness so that we can begin to see what we're doing and where we override what's natural for us, what's natural for our particular body type. And that's really crucial. Just to digress a little bit, one of the things that we really emphasize in the trainings that I do is that it's impossible for someone else to know better than your own awareness, their own physiology, what's needed by you. If we can expand awareness and develop intuition and really listen to the body, it will tell us what's needed.
Exactly.
And, everybody's body type, well, we can categorize it. It has unique needs. And so even within a specific body type, just trying to give recommendations along those lines are not going to be as powerful as teaching someone to become more aware of how the body communicates with them and to be able to intuit what is needed on this day at this time. So this is another facet of that nature of healing. When we connect with source, it begins to expand our awareness. It gives us a broader lens with which to be able to take in what's happening. And with that more powerful, broader lens, we can then become aware more of what the body actually needs. So one of the most important ways to begin to work with these patternings is to enhance awareness, so we become aware of them and what it is they're trying to do for us. Because all of this gets started initially at the very onset with something that is actually positive that we're trying to do. We're trying to meet a need in a certain way. And that desire to meet that need is important, and it's positive. It's that we get off track, we overlearn, we get led down the wrong path in terms of how to get the needs met, and that's where, and then we begin to take those patterns and run those patterns unconsciously, and that's where we get into trouble. Now, working with the chakra system, again, there are many more, shall I say, subtle types of yoga practices that do work with enhancing awareness of the subtle energy patterns that are there. And a lot of times there are these different components. There's the mental emotional pattern. There's the energy of it that often will hold it in place. So even when you become aware of it, if you've not released the energy, it's going to keep coming back. Because the energy, it's like ama. Think of it like emotional or energetic ama. If it, ama often holds the doshas out of balance, and is same thing on this level of life that will tend to hold the pattern.
Yeah.
And so there's a need to work on the energetic level. So, we can work on the level of awareness. There's also a need to work on the level of purification and reestablishing a more natural flow in that particular chakra. And so the ancients, they didn't separate. They didn't say, oh, well, this is the field of Jyotish, and this is the field of yoga, and, this is the field of Stapachaved. And, the ancient Ayurvedic physicians saw the interrelationship of all of it.
Right.
And understood it as an expression of consciousness, and understood that we exist on multiple koshas. And they would incorporate all of it in their approach. Mm. It's more of a modern thing that we say, oh, well, this is this, this is something that is just associated with this astrology, Vedic astrology, and has, that's separate from Ayurveda.
Right. So Ayurveda, definitely didn't have the reductionist approach. It was more holistic. And as you said, working on the 5 sheaths or koshas or layers of the body as one, and using different modalities to heal the body and to bring it into a place where it can heal itself.
Exactly. And that's really what we're talking about with these different approaches and different modalities, that there can be something physical that we can approach by looking at, well, what's the root cause? And say, the root cause is that, this vata imbalance is being caused by this person not sleeping, and the not sleeping is being caused by this workaholic pattern, and that this pattern is being driven by this need that we can locate in the chakra system. And so addressing it on multiple levels, on the level of the highest, pure consciousness. On the level of the mind, this is where, in emotions, often aromas have an amazing impact. There's these deep associations that we have with smell that often can be powerfully balancing or powerfully stimulating to the emotional body. Mm. And so another element that could be pulled in, to say somebody's really working on this third chakra, and over pouring too much energy into it, and getting into the overwork and all of that sometimes working with the chakra above it, with the 4th chakra, and with something like sandalwood, as an aroma that really connects one more to spirit and can activate some of the higher chakras and, start to balance and pull some of that off and give some easing. And so aromas are another way that we can work with this type of patterning. And so it all can be interwoven. But again, if you're interested in helping people with Ayurveda, it really becomes necessary to be able to look at, which level of our multidimensional existence is this coming from? Is it physical? Is it energetic primarily? Is it mental, emotional primarily? Is it something that is coming from the subtle, causal, the sort of more we could say the soul level more, that really from we could look at it as karmic,
right.
level, more the Jnanamaya kosha, that level that we actually see in the Jyotish chart. The Jyotish chart can be like a picture of the karmic level of life. And is it coming? And that's part of the reason that we utilize the Jyotish chart in consultations is, is this coming from that level? And on that level, there are remedies. There are things like gemstones and yagas and so forth. And is it something ultimately spiritual, which is really the highest expression of spirit we often know experientially as love. And one of the things that's not emphasized in understanding the koshas is that the higher the kosha, we're really talking about a higher vibration of consciousness. We're really talking about something that is much more powerful. So if you can affect something on the level of spirit, at the level of that highest universal love, that has a huge impact on all of the levels, and can be a powerful healer. That's why we have this expression that love heals all. Well, how does love heal all? Well, love unifies and harmonizes, and it brings that high vibrational energy that restores the intelligence that came with the disconnection.
Right.
Again, looking at longevity studies, one of the things that is fascinating is that more important than diet is the amount of social connection. And so translating that, that's a conduit for love. And that's going to override even some of the bad nutritional habits. Right.
That interpersonal connection, being part of a community. Yeah. Because we see even in these blue zones around the world, they're in places like Sardinia, and where these centenarians have very close community ties.
Exactly.
I'm going to interrupt my conversation with Dr. Dugliss just for a moment to let you know about my upcoming discounted group digestive reset cleanse, which starts September 2nd, 2022. Ayurveda recommends cleansing at the joint of the seasons to eliminate any accumulated ama, or doshas from the previous season, so they do not cause imbalances in the coming season. This group cleanse comes with an online one-to-one consultation with me so that I can tailor the recipes, the meditation, the yoga, the pranayama, and anything else I think you need to bring your body and mind into balance. This cleanse is not just a physical cleanse, but also an emotional cleanse, bringing your body, mind, and spirit into balance so you can feel light, clear, and energetic entering into the new season. Please check out the link in the show notes or visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com. And for the discounted group digestive reset cleanse, visit the events tab on my website. If that date of September 2nd doesn't work for you, well then check out the private cleanse and choose your own dates, and you'll find that under the programs tab. I also wanted to take a moment to bring a word from our sponsor today, Mount Madonna Institute. Study Ayurveda, Ayurvedic yoga therapy, classical yoga, and Sanskrit in person on a mountaintop campus overlooking Monterey Bay on the central coast of California. A nurturing learning environment where you will be in nature surrounded by redwoods and a like-minded community of peers. Visit mountmadonna.org to discover more and receive $100 off tuition when you register before December 31st, 2022 using the discount code ELEMENTS22. You'll find all the info in the show notes. And what I do want to ask you about is you're talking about, bringing awareness with meditation, which makes absolute sense because when we're working with people in Ayurveda, they can explain to us what they're going through. But as you said earlier, nobody knows and connects with your own body like yourself. So it's really about teaching people to open up to that awareness and that intuition and that inner guidance. And in a case where there was a traumatic childhood where the foundational needs weren't met, will meditation be able to unwind that patterning?
So the way to think of it is that meditation is like rain. It falls all over the lawn. It falls all over every aspect of the garden. It falls in the hedges. And it is, it's rather dispersed. And so if you have one plant in your garden that's not doing well, and it looks like the gardener forgot to water it, you're better off actually going and watering that particular plant. Eventually, the rains will bring it back to health. And so meditation like that, it's not specific to resolving a particular trauma.
Right.
But over time, over decades, it will.
Right.
But we don't want to have to wait for decades.
Yeah.
And so this is where we need something more specific. And it's also where, when I'm training students, practitioners, I point out that when there is that element and it becomes clear to the client, they need to focus on that. Sometimes it's best to refer to, a psychologist who's specializes in dealing with, early trauma.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, the flip side is if you ask people, I don't know hardly anyone who would say they got their needs met as a kid.
Yes. That's true.
I think there's a little bit of trauma for everybody.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I don't want to, I don't want to minimize those people who had severe trauma. They really need, all all the support they can get. And usually that goes beyond just an Ayurvedic approach. Mm-hmm. But with things that are more mild, when we identify within, again, just like a perfectionistic pattern that we were talking about, again, that may have been a coping mechanism for, rather dysfunctional family. Mm. And this is where once we're clear that this is something that needs to be referred, that we can begin to work with something more targeted. And this is where the facets of the heart come in. We were talking about the power of love. Mm-hmm. And the problem with that word is that we too often think of love as a sentimental feeling or as an emotion. And it's actually not. It's actually the force and power of spirit moving. And so when we begin to learn how to work with exploring the heart space and how to center our awareness in the heart space and begin to identify some of the facets that are present within the heart that are really the higher octaves of the fourth chakra, those that are more connected to spirit, then we can learn ways of directing that energy to a particular chakra. And we can also learn ways of taking that experience of profound peace and harmony and applying it to what comes up for us. So when we talk about stress, what we're talking about typically is something that we're in resistance to. We're talking about something, that which we find stressful. There's some belief, there's some perception that this isn't what I want. I don't want this to be happening. This shouldn't be happening. And we're in the mindset that this is problematic.
Right.
And when we learn to center in the heart, when we learn the facets of the heart, and we begin to center in the heart, and we begin to experience the peace that is there in this universal heart, in the spiritual heart, then we can take a fresh look at our beliefs. We can open to looking at maybe, just maybe, there's something that is actually here in this, what I find stressful situation, that is to serve me on a higher level. It's not something I like on a mental, emotional level, but maybe on a soul level, maybe there's something here. And it's that entertaining of just that possibility from that space of centered peacefulness that then allows us to accept a little bit more what's happening. And if we really work with this in some of the ways that I do with my students and in meditation retreats that I do, if we really work with this, we often come to realize, oh, this is actually for me. This is actually, and then it's that shift that allows us to come into radical acceptance. And it's this practice of radical acceptance that will ease the stress, will ease the suffering, and will often allow the beliefs and the resistance to begin to fade away. And then the stressor no longer becomes a stress.
Yeah, it is amazing way of thinking. It's really just changing our perception, really, of what's happening, right? But it is truly freeing when you take on this radical acceptance that everything is happening for a reason. It really is freeing and releases so much stress, and looking at a situation more with curiosity than with disdain or running away from it.
Yeah, definitely. And I would just refine what you said. It was a great summary. It's not just a change in perception, because that's all mental.
Yes.
It's actually basing things on our experience of ourselves in the heart space. It's grounded in our experience of the truth of our being. And from that truth, then the perception automatically starts to change.
Right. Yes, so we're working from a deeper level there. Yes.
Exactly. And so this is where we're working from that level of love. And so we can love what arises. We can and we can actually get curious, as you say. I love that. We can also accept the challenge. Oh, this has been stressful for me because I'm really shy and I have to speak in public, and this is important. This is one of the things that I understand is really important for me to learn to do. So I'm going to accept the challenge. I'm going to center in that heartfulness and that peacefulness, and I'm going to enjoy getting up and speaking in front of people. That would be an example. So this is the connection between the heartfulness, the facets of the heart. This is one facet. That peace is one facet. And this practice of radical acceptance, and how it can take these patterns that are held in the chakra system and begin to, in a focused way, resolve them. Now, the meditation does help in that it enhances our awareness, and we can catch the triggers earlier and so forth. But when there's something more specific, like we're in resistance all the time, then we know we need this facet of the heart and that experience of peace and that focused element of love that we call acceptance to be directed to promote the healing, to promote the release of the old patterning and a reconnection to our soul and what we came here to experience, reconnection to spirit and to source.
Yeah, beautifully put, because I think we can get caught up so much in the physical, the doshas, the food, the dinacharya. And so we really need to understand that healing is holistic, and that in order to affect all 5 sheets of 5 koshas of the body, that the meditation, mindfulness practices are so important.
Yeah, not to, diet is important.
Yes.
But you'll find in practice, it's so hard for people to change. And again, it's often because there's an emotional need or some other need, one of the chakra needs that are getting met by their pattern of eating.
Yeah.
And so it all intertwines. And you'll find you're much more successful in working with Ayurveda when you address holistically.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. This way of thinking of radical acceptance and approaching any stressors that arise in your life as this is what is, like we're saying, rather than shutting it down or running away from it, is an amazing way of going through life. As you said, it relieves stress, and then working with what comes up in life as a challenge, as a lesson, as an experience that's there for you to help you grow.
Yeah, it's really important. The spirituality too often has become a way of trying to get away from life.
Right, bypassing.
Or to minimize.
minimize
or bypass. And this is really taking your spirit, your love, your heart, and fully being present to what is.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because spiritual bypassing is something that can be an issue. Overlooking those areas that we need to work on by spiritual bypassing is not going to help you heal in the end of the day. So, as you said, accepting what is with love and looking at it with this radical acceptance is really the true path to healing.
Yes, and it is what will allow us to become whole again and really reconnect with source and with who we truly are, reconnect with our true self.
Dr. Dugliss, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for this conversation today. It's great that we're able to pull together those previous two conversations. And I'd love for you to take a moment before we finish up here to tell people where they can find out more about you, your offerings. You mentioned your courses, the practitioner course, and other course you offer, and also the meditation courses.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. It's been great to be here. If people are interested in training in Ayurveda, it's the website to check out is newworldayurveda.com. It's all run together, newworldayurveda.com. And if you're interested in exploring meditation and the facets of the heart, heartcenteredworld.net. So again, all run together, heartcenteredworld.net. And that is also where you'll see the training. Under events, you'll see training in heart-based meditation.
Great. And your events and course are online, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Great. That's good to know. And you also offer people are interested a discovery call?
Yes. If you go to the newworldayurveda.com website, you'll see at the very bottom, there's a button there to schedule a free discovery session to see if it's a good fit for you.
Excellent. Dr. Dugliss, thank you so much for this conversation today. I really appreciate it. And just getting this information out in the world is just so important. So thank you so much for all you do and for sharing this wisdom with us today.
You're very welcome. It's just been a joy to connect.
Thank you. Okay. Until next time, take good care of yourself.
You too.
Bye for now. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Dr. Dugliss, and please check out the show notes for all the links mentioned in this episode, including the link to the upcoming discounted group Digestive Reset Cleanse starting September 2nd, 2022. If you think that this episode will be helpful to family or friends, please share it with them so we can get this important information out there. And if you haven't already subscribed or followed the podcast, please do so wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you would like to rate and review it, I would really appreciate that. You can also find me on social media under Elements Healing and Wellbeing on Instagram and Facebook. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take good care of yourself, be well, and bye for now. Slán go fóill.